When we take a look back through all the histories we've done so far and all the histories we've yet to do, what do we see? A wonderful amalgam of wheel reinvention and an excruciatingly long list of developers scratching an itch, whether that be professionally or just for fun. A beautiful world of fragmentation that brings us some of the best software ever written. If you've been following along, you already know that the desktops are no different. And to backtrack a little, we've covered CDE first released in 1993, XFCE in 97, KDE in 98, and GNOME in 99. But another desktop worth mentioning started out a whole lot like XFCE, in that it didn't start out as a full desktop at all, but rather a single tool, the file manager. Simplicity was the aim here, using the bare minimum but not excluding features, at least the ones that would come in the future, only focusing on keeping things extremely lightweight. Every development decision had this thought at the heart of it. So in 2006, the first version of that file manager was released based on GTK2, PCManFM, by none other than Hong Renyu, or PCMan. The FM, of course, stands for File Manager, and did exactly what it sounds like. It was a competitor to, at the time, GNOME's Nautilus, KDE's Conqueror, and XFCE's Thunar. By 2007, LXDE, that's the lightweight X11 desktop environment, and it served as the umbrella name for all the singular, use them if you want, but you don't have to, components that were developed alongside PCManFM. It had made its mark and started turning some heads. Lightweight distributions like Pud Linux, that's Penk's underbred distro, and B2D Linux, both lightweight-focused Taiwanese distributions, began taking notice, and discussions began in both about making a switch. By PCMan's own admission, 2008 is really when LXDE took off in popularity and started gaining more than just the basic features. PCManFM gained a file search utility and features like single click to open in versions leading up to and including 0.5. LX Panel, the tray across the bottom, started coming into its own with version 0.3.7 this year, as did LX Session, essentially the launcher that sets things up. Things were really beginning to look up for LXDE. Debian saw the inclusion of LXDE in its repositories, and by extension, all the derivatives were able to take advantage as well. Ubuntu was in its infancy, and projects like Ubuntu Lite, later known as U-lite, a distribution originally started in 2005 by Matic Ahacic and then restarted by Shay Smittle in 2007, was one of the first in the majority English-speaking world that committed to using LXDE in May. Prior to this, PUD and B2D had already made the switch following their interest in the previous year. Others like Elemental Linux, MoonOS, and WattOS followed suit. That wasn't it. Reviews in July backing up PCMan's assertion that LXDE was the lightweight desktop to use in spite of XFCE's established reputation in the field. In August, the blog was launched to parrot a lot of what was already happening on the mailing lists that were hosted on SourceForge at the time. Announcements were no longer buried, and information about the desktop that so many were clamoring to see was now much easier to get to. The first post made its appearance in September. After all this winning, PCMan disappears, at least for a little bit. It turns out the slowdowns people noticed weren't because PCMan was giving up. No, they were because he had a side job, becoming a doctor. Yeah, PCMan's side hustle is helping people after he's done helping people full time. Sidux, a Debian distribution with its own kernel with special sauce, gets an unofficial LXDE flavor with Compiz and 3dfx. But Debian itself, while the packages were there, wouldn't jump on the bandwagon for a while yet. That doesn't mean that other forward-looking and faster-moving distributions like Mandriva and Fedora won't take the bait. At the end of the year, Mandriva picked up LXDE. Their partners are adding it to netbooks. And Fedora too, with version 10. Even if PCMan was focusing his attention elsewhere, LXDE was still forging ahead, making steady progress on just about every component and even adding new ones like LX Session Edit, a startup application editor, LX Shortcut, an application shortcut editor, LX Music, my personal favorite, an XMMS-based music player that looks very reminiscent of Foobar 2000. There was also time left in the year for a new LXDE Translation project that's still ongoing in spirit today. By the end of 2008, LXDE was seen in TinyMe, a PC Linux OS derivative, Silats, a live CD distro, Greenie, an Ubuntu offshoot, Vector Linux Lite, MoonOS Box Edition, GOS, and ZenWalk. By 2009, it had become abundantly clear that PCMan would look to the community for guidance. And that guidance always ended up being stay lean, stay fast. And if the tone wasn't already set for that to happen, by the end of the year, it was solidified. This speed was showcased for the first time at FOSDEM in February. This year was perhaps the year that LXDE seized its place atop the lightweight mountain. Aside from Debian, there weren't many other places that it needed to land and prove its worth. One of the last few of those places was filled at a breakfast in Berlin. There, Ubuntu was truly born with the help of Mark Shuttleworth. LXDE didn't stop there either. It had been seen running on Android and on Open Solaris too. Neither are traditional Linux. Speaking of traditional Linux, though, CentOS saw some movement in the full support direction, and PC Linux OS finished theirs with PC LXDE. At the end of August, the first Ubuntu test ISO was available, and Fedora 12 saw LXDE as the second most popular spin behind KDE. LX Panel saw major updates this year, and LX Input, a keyboard and mouse configuration tool, XKB, a keyboard switcher, and LXDM, a new display manager to replace usage of the GNOME and KDE's display manager, saw inclusion under the LXDE umbrella. Lots of other improvements across the entire family of apps, including an LX Launcher rework. If 2008 was the year to adopt LXDE, 2009 was the year to show, not tell, people why they made the right choice. By 2010, there were only a few distribution holdouts, but OpenSUSE made the list one line shorter by joining with version 11.13, which added LXDE as a default option. Also in the year, PCManFM would begin the process of a significant rewrite of the entire codebase to, you guessed it, refactor and speed things up even more than they already were. The answers to the question of, what do you do when you're the fastest file manager in all of FOSS? It's obvious. Rewrite. Make it faster. But this didn't mean that other parts of LXDE would slow down development. Nope. Just about every component saw some type of version increase, whether it be bug fixes in LX Music, a rewrite of LX Appearance, or entirely new applications like LX Polkit for authentication. The team also made the display manager themable because sometimes you need a little pretty alongside your blisteringly fast. Now, a feature you might have expected to be there wasn't until the end of the year. Movable desktop icons? Oh, and you can also now run LXDE on an Android phone, the Nexus 1. 2011 saw more and more development across the entire family of apps, including more and more development on that PCManFM rework. There was more development work to do in 2012. LXDE had another great year with becoming an official Debian desktop in the installer, not just having packages in the repos. And following that up, the PCManFM rework, the official 1.0, landed in the later half of the year. It was 6 years in the making and was almost immediately followed up with bug fixes and minor releases. Was a full rewrite of PCManFM enough? Absolutely not, because the file manager, and really all of the LXDE bits, were written apart from the UI code itself. Portability was baked in by default, as has always been the case. And with a chorus of when's GTK3 support coming looming over the project because GTK2 was on its way out, PCMan decided another side project might be prudent at CosCup 2012 in Taipei, Taiwan. Not a port to GTK3. Oh no, that'd be too easy. But to Qt. To those in the know, that's the same framework that KDE Plasma is built on top of. PCMan said,
"No, LXDE will not use Qt. Don't panic."
The most interesting and unique part of the PCManFM Qt port are
no KDE dependency. Really, it's a lightweight pure Qt 4 program. Almost as fast as the original GTK Plus version. I have not taken any time to do optimization yet. Uses libfm and glibgio and supports GVFS, so you can mount remote file systems. Source code is clean and short, written in C++. Desktop independent. Do not depend on any specific desktop environment. Although it uses glib, gio, GVFS, it does not require GNOME. Built with CMake. No more auto tools. Later, when the APIs become stable, I'll make it two parts, PCManFM main binary and libfm Qt, which can be used in other pure Qt programs.
The first real milestone was a working prototype debuted in February of 2013. A month later, PCManFM Qt 0.1.0 was released to everyone. PCMan needed to be clear about the trajectory here. PCManFM and PCManFM Qt would be two separate projects that would coexist with the Qt port being labeled only an alternative. Not many people had waded into the GTK to Qt porting waters up until this point. PCMan saw this as a deficiency and wrote an entire guide for migrating from GTK Plus to Qt to help anybody that cared to look with getting up to speed. In the following months, with collaboration between the LXDE team and the Razer Qt team, an LXDE Qt preview appears, showcasing the LX panel, the part of LXDE that you see all the time. Aside from the file manager, the real backbone of the desktop. Speaking of Razer Qt, they were a competing desktop at the time with very similar goals. Run a very lightweight desktop on top of Qt. It was
tailored for users who value simplicity, speed, and an intuitive interface.
PCMan said of the project,
"So personally, I like Razer Qt very much and admire their work. Resource usage is a little more than ours, but that's understandable because it has more features. Free software is all about choice, but too many choices is not always good. Diversity is nice, but having duplicated work with the only differences in the GUI toolkits is nonsense. This only creates unnecessary divergence and waste precious manpower. Since we have the same goals, merging the effort is reasonable."
A couple of weeks after the preview of LXDE Qt was announced, the merger between LXDE Qt and Razer Qt was all but complete. Jerome Leclanche said at the time,
"We have decided that the best course of action for both projects is to focus on a single desktop environment instead of two. There have been talks of merging ever since LXDE Qt was announced. Having taken the decision to collaborate, we've all had the pleasure of working together already. Our plan is to cherry-pick the best parts of Razor and LXDE and include or port those to LXDE-Qt. Other components will be ported straight from GTK code or rewritten from scratch. In the end, we want to offer the best possible experience while reusing as much code as possible.
But ever since the announcement, work and early releases of LXDE-Qt, email after email, comment after comment trickled in complaining of the dreaded bloat. Every lightweight project's nightmare. Between GTK lovers, Qt haters, and some that just jumped on the bandwagon because it was en vogue or they thought the entirety of KDE would be shipped alongside, it prompted PCMan to respond. No, LXDE-Qt wasn't bloated. Far from it. PCMan demonstrated an LX terminal using the free command that the Qt version was running on a system using a slim 91 megabytes. The main GTK version took up only 86 megabytes. Aha! The naysayers might exclaim, "We found the bloat!" Until they realized that LX terminal hadn't been ported to Qt yet and required GTK libraries to be loaded behind the scenes to even get the thing to run. At every turn, over and over, bloat had been successfully dismantled as an argument. But it didn't stop many from saying it anyway. Throughout and further in the year, just as PCMan promised, LXDE, the GTK version, was loved and maintained as it always had been. And that LXDE maintenance continued into 2014 too, to include PCManFM 1.2.0. In late March, through an announcement to note that PCManFM Qt was in a fine state, we see the first official talk of the project's name changing from LXDE Qt to simply LXQt, in line with what we say today. Just a month later, the first full LXQt alpha is announced. And about 10 days after that, Jerome announced the first Qt lightweight desktop environment 0.7.0 is released by both LXDE and Razor Qt teams. This also marked a switch to a coordinated release type where LXQt, the umbrella project, is distributed along with the accompanying updated software like LX Appearance, LX Panel, and all the other bits that have changed. Oh, and a side note, PCManFM Qt was Wayland ready. The announcement also noted,
existing LXDE users will be happy to hear that the GTK version of LXDE will not be discontinued for the time being. While several developers have shifted their focus on LXQt, a classic LXDE will continue being maintained as long as there are developers still working on it.
Astute listeners will note the words "for the time being" tucked neatly in that little bit. It was one of the first public mentions of a deadline for LXDE itself. A couple days later, initial free BSD support for LXQt showed up too. Now, for those keeping count, in mid-2014, on bare systems with OpenBox in the backend, LXDE ran at 78 megabytes of RAM, and LXQt ran at 95 megabytes. PCMan noted the need for optimization. For reference, XFCE was clocking in at 89 megabytes. By June, LXQt got full Qt5 support. With the year winding down and an LXQt 0.8 released too, PCMan notes that LXDE is still not dead and won't be as long as GTK2 support is still kicking. Andrei Gritsenko, however, would be leading the charge since the bulk of the project's resources would be squarely pointed toward LXQt, but both projects are still, most certainly, actively developed. To mark the end of the year, we say goodbye to Razor Qt, a 2-year project that shone brightly and was ultimately absorbed by LXQt. PCMan said of the shuttering,
Without the work of the Razor Qt project, we couldn't have LXQt now. Its developers deserve credit. Long live free software.
The seismic shifts were over. Starting with one project, then two, then a third, and RazorQt were back down to 2 for the foreseeable future. Things would move a little slower and a little quieter. In 2015, the 0.9 release was caught on snags in Qt 5.4, but eventually released in early February with a new theme and polish. Also, by this point, LXQt could be found wherever distros existed, really. Adoption took almost no time at all compared to its earlier sibling, LXDE. LXQt 0.10 followed in November with lots of back-end work to speed things up and lots of translations. With LXQt 0.11 releasing in the new year, all the way in September, so too were renewed grumblings of bloat. So, here are the stats. Running only a file manager and terminal to get the stats: LXDE, 100 megabytes of RAM. LXQt, 120 megabytes. XFCE, 150 megabytes. It also shipped with better multi-monitor support and a search feature in the launcher. 2017 saw another late-in-the-year release in September. LXQt 0.12 came with a new save dialog in PCManFM Qt, better high DPI support, and tons of Qt optimization. In 2018, we saw the release of LXQt 0.13. This also marked the split from the LXDE project in more than name. A GitHub project was set up for the purpose of tracking bugs in general development where PCMan, Jerome, and a few others gathered to continue to work on the software. In 2019, LXQt 0.14 is released and brought with it split view in PCManFM, some basic desktop icons like the home directory, trash, and the computer, and tons of translations. In 2020, LXQt 0.15 released with better file extension handling, better keyboard navigation, and better tooltips. With this release, the cadence of April and November releases begins. 2 big jumps per year. And 0.16 followed with power management improvements, new themes, and better tab handling in PCManFM. At the end of 2020, GTK2 would have its final release and would start moving toward the end-of-life preparations. Apps based on the toolkit would need to move to GTK3 or even 4, as it had just been released end of year as well. This sounded the death knell for LXDE, since GTK2, if it hadn't already been removed from distributions, would be starting soon. Debian, at the time, set the death date of GTK2 at August 14th, 2021. If there were any chance at survival, a port of LXDE was necessary, and GTK3 would end up being the target because, as it turns out, Arch developers, among others, had been tinkering with the port since 2016. These packages have been maintained and are still installable today. 2021 was a big year for LXQt. First, with another minor release to 0.17, which brought in creation time information for PCManFM, better panel auto-hiding, and power management options. But in November, it was time to celebrate. LXQt 1.0.0 was released. Upgrading to the long-term support release of Qt5, version 5.15, was the big undertaking here. This would allow the team to target one version of Qt until the next big jump becomes necessary. Aside from this, image viewer improvements, a Do Not Disturb mode, a custom command option in the panel, more themes, and tons of translations are just some of the improvements for this momentous release. This year also marked the last year that LXDE components were publicly noted. Any future development would be done piecemeal with new developers. LXQt is full steam ahead. There were 2 releases in 2022. LXQt 1.1 in April, which brought in dbus support so that apps like Firefox and Chromium could access PCManFM without trickery, among other improvements. But also the work to begin porting to Qt6. There's still much to do, But this should cement the idea that while LXQt is a traditional and conservative desktop, they're still modern in most of the ways that truly count. With LXQt 1.2 in November, PCManFM gets a search history, some old icon issues were cleared, and a ton more Wayland work. While the last official releases noted on the LXDE blog were 2 years ago now in 2023, there are certainly still LXDE diehards keeping things alive. Since the port to GTK3 was done, you can still find LXDE being shipped in places like Arch, Fedora, Debian, and OpenSUSE. And in fact, the last official releases happened here. Though if you poke around in the GitHub, you can see that development, however small, is still ongoing. April and November also have their normal releases again this year, with LXQt 1.3.0 bringing in smooth scrolling, system tray improvements, and Wayland fixes. And LXQt 1.4 landed with PCManFM remembering the state of the last session, better color representation in the image viewer, and fixes for various apps like Telegram, which use dbus in the backend. 1.4 is also the last planned release on the 1 branch. The 2 series is done and ready, and is planned to release in the usual April slot, with almost full Wayland support, but will certainly be based on Qt6. The target for Wayland will be LXQt 2.1, which should, if the stars align, be released in November 2024. But speaking of Wayland, at this point, the desktop, runner, notifications, panels, logout, and most apps are already compatible. A few things like the taskbar, global shortcuts, and screen grab apps still need some time to bake. Sadly, as we record this, 2.0 isn't actually out yet. And by the time things are all edited and released, LXQt 2.0 will release and immediately make this history obsolete.
Of course.
But isn't that how they all go?
So you can catch all the great topics as they unfold on our Lemmy subreddit, news channel on Discord, Linux user space .show/ the thing. And that'll be how you find it. So yeah, we've got Lemmy, Reddit, Discord, Mastodon, Telegram, Matrix, Twitch, Twitter, or X, or whatever we're calling it this week. We've got all those things, and you can find us there and interact, and certainly catch the news and send us your feedback and, all that stuff. We'll take it.
If you're listening to this part right now, send in the emails right now.
Yeah, Leo loves
another
his
topic
emails.
show coming up. I know, it's my favorite thing. We're coming up to another topic show, which, that's where we do the feedback. So
yeah,
if you've been thinking about tip-a-tapping a comment or an email or anything, get it done soon, and it'll probably land in the next episode. So
yeah, absolutely. I know we've already got some things that we've collected that we're definitely going to have to discuss. Mostly about last episode, but that's okay because that's feedback. That's what it's all about. And we did a whole show last time that was all feedback. Your show. We did it for you.